Okay. Okay. Let me share my screen. So, share. Okay. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, called the Summum Bonum, chapter 28, verse 16. Te tu Brahma Radamnita Magna Krishnena Kadrita Dadasur Brahmano Lokam Yaktakluro Dagyatpura. Word for word. Translation and purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Te, they, to, and Brahma Radam, to the lake known as Brahma Rada. Nitaha, brought, Magnaha, submerged, Krishnena, by Krishna, Cha, and Udritaha, lifted out. Dadrishuhu, they saw. Brahmanaha, the absolute truth. Lokam, the transcendental planet. Yatra, where? Akrura, Apura. Adhyagat, saw. Pura, previously. Translation. The carried man were brought by Lord Krishna to the Brahma Rada, made to submerge in the water, and then lifted up. From the same vantage point that Akrura saw the spiritual world, the carried man saw the planet of the absolute truth. Purport. The unlimited extension of spiritual light, called the Brahma Jyoti in text 15, is compared to a lake called Brahma Rada. Lord Krishna submerged the carried man in that lake in the sense that he submerged them in the awareness of the impersonal Brahman. But then, as indicated by the word Udrataha, he lifted them up to a higher understanding. This is so instructive. Krishna is lifting us up to a higher understanding, that of the personality of Godhead in his own planet. As clearly stated here, Nadarsur Brahmano Lokam, they saw, just as Akrura did, the transcendental abode of the absolute truth. The evolution of consciousness may be briefly summarized as follows. In ordinary consciousness, we perceive and are attracted to the variety of material things. Material means selfish and temporary. Rising to the first stage of spiritual consciousness, we transcend material variety and focus instead on the undifferentiated one, which lies behind and gives existence to the many. So, this impersonal realization of the absolute truth, the impersonal aspect of Krishna is being described in this sentence. The undifferentiated one, which lies behind and gives existence to the many. And finally, rising to Krishna consciousness, we find that the absolute spiritual one contains its own eternal variety. So see, variety is there in Krishna consciousness. In fact, since this world is a mere shadow of eternal existence, we would expect to find spiritual variety within the one. And indeed, we do find it in the sacred text of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam has so many philosophical points, so many wild pastimes, so much variety is there in the Bhagavatam for us. And the Bhagavatam is centered around Krishna. So Krishna means pastimes, leelas. Krishna means variety. Astute readers may note that the pastime involving Akrura takes place later in the Bhagavatam, after the present affair with a cowherd man. So Akrura had his vision in the water some years later than the pastimes that is being talked about here. So the reason Shukadev Goswami says Akrura saw Vaikuntapura previously is that all these incidents, both of them, took place many years before a conversation between Shukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. Okay, so now we're going to stop sharing and do some invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yenai Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master is opening my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him again and again and again. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yenai Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now we're going to offer our praise to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Pritale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pashtatya Adeshatayani, which translates as, I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at His lotus feet. Our respectful obeisances are unto you, our spiritual master, servant of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, that's Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Deva and delivering the Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Okay. So again, just to recap quickly, let me see, I'm going back to Zoom. Baptized by Krishna, sign me up. Hare Krishna, good morning, dear devotees. Yes, we are, yeah, this is baptism by Krishna. Nice, Jeffrey. Thank you. Yeah, so just to recap, Nanda Maharaj took bath in the holy Jamuna River in the wrong time. And that was observed by a somewhat immature servant of the demigod of the water, Varunadev. So Nanda Maharaj got arrested by the servant of Varunadev and taken to the court of the demigod. And then Krishna found out about that immediately. First of all, the Nanda Maharaj was the king of cowherd boys, and they realized that he was missing. And then Krishna came to the rescue. Krishna goes down to the abode of Varunadev, where Varunadev offers prayers to Krishna, acknowledges Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Nanda Maharaj was brought back to the surface. And there, cowherd boys were astonished, and they were surprised and confused, and they suggested that Krishna must be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that he rescued Maharaj, and that he is worshipped by Varunadev. And Krishna, seeing that they were speculating, the word that Hridayananda Maharaj and his team used was conjecturing. Krishna saw that the cowherd boys were speculating, were somewhat confused, and then he mercifully um, revealed his personality, his true identity to him by baptizing them, by submerging them to the water, and then bringing them back up. And in the purport, it is talked about how our understanding of Krishna, our realization of God, is a gradual process. It may start as an impersonal realization, and then gradually it's meant to go up to the personal realization of God, of Krishna as a person, with his own likes and dislikes, with his own existence, just like I exist, I'm separate from everybody else. So in the same way, Krishna exists as a personality, and the personal aspect of Krishna is considered the highest, because it includes all previous levels of God realization. So when I first read the purport, I immediately recalled how before coming to bhakti, I was so refreshed by and relieved to hear that my material existence, my material struggles, my material confusion wasn't all there is. I was so relieved to hear. It was I came across an impersonal teaching where I remember very clearly. I was reading. It was in English, and it was basically making this point that your backstory, your suffering, your pain, your relationship, your confusion, it's all illusory. It's not even you, basically. And it was so refreshing, and to hear that all this giant, this big knot, this giant confusion that I ran into it wasn't even me. It had nothing to do with who I really am. And then the conclusion wasn't personal, that ultimately there is no such a thing as Ananda, as Alex. You don't even exist. It's not you. You don't exist, and therefore all your troubles and difficulties do not exist and cannot touch you either. So that was the impersonal aspect of Krishna that I came across as a beginner, as a truth seeker. And so an impersonal aspect, this meditation on nothing, meditation on impersonal effulgence of Krishna, it's so appealing to people, because people in this day and age are characterized as being confused, suffering, disturbed, ignorant, always in pain. And impersonal aspect of Krishna offers peace of mind, but that's not the ultimate aspect of God realization. Beyond that lies Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, it's described in the Shastra. The peace of mind and liberation from the pangs of this material world is just a byproduct. It will also come. It will become very peaceful, but it will be a byproduct of our bhakti. And in bhakti, there is variety. There is emotions. We can experience transcendental excitement, transcendental fear, transcendental love, transcendental anxiety even. But because Krishna is there in that equation, that anxiety doesn't bring any suffering. It's transcendental. We're taking up risks for Krishna. We're overcoming difficulties for Krishna. And therefore, there is no question of suffering in bhakti. This is how we're liberated. It's not that we're liberated by being brought into a realm where there is nothing. where there is no suffering because there's nothing else. There's no happiness either. There's nothing. We're liberated by being brought into the realm where there is devotional service, where there is mission that we've been given. We have a mission to fulfill. We have something. That we can do with our life. Something good that we can do with our life. We have meaning. Krishna consciousness is joyfully performed, and it's also liberating as a byproduct. It's also given us peace of mind because we know as devotees that Krishna is our best friend and he will be there for us when we need him. And as the Gauranga Prabhu was describing yesterday, we're meant to see Krishna everywhere. So everywhere means we will go places. Everywhere means we will be challenged, and there will be obstacles for us to overcome. But if we see Krishna there, then we will be very peaceful, joyful, and happy. So that's the personal aspect of God. That's what it gives. And Krishnadaya Prabhu also, it's so nice to give class when the pastime is almost over. Everything is being described, so I can just repeat. Krishnadaya Prabhu was describing so wonderfully the other day how when our desires are aligned with the desires of the Lord, then there's no question of control. Krishna is controlling us, but because our desires are aligned with His sweet will, we don't even feel, we can't experience. Ananda Maharaj describes how control can only be experienced where there is resistance to it. But when we finally stop resisting, when we finally surrender to Krishna, then there's no question of control. So that's how the cowherd boys were confused as to who Krishna was, because they never resisted him. They were always absorbed in thoughts of him. So they were thinking that he's our Krishna. He lives in Vrindavan. He's a cowherd boy. We'll love him as our son. We'll love him as our friend. We'll love him as our lover. But they had already transcended the reverence, the aspect of awe and reverence. So that's how they got confused. They had never experienced Krishna's control in the first place. So they were thinking, how is it that we're not experiencing this controlling aspect of Krishna? Who is Krishna? So Krishna showed them, he submerged them under the water of that lake to show him the aspect, to show him his spiritual abode, where they saw whom? They saw Krishna. And it's said in the purport that, no, it's not in the purport, it's, this is how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's guru, he was describing that Krishna showed them the spiritual world, but he didn't show them just another Vaikuntha planet with Lord Vishnu in his aspect of awe and reverence and control and obedience. Krishna showed them Goloka Vrindavan, where they saw whom? They saw Krishna, surrounded by the Vedas personified, surrounded by cowherd boys. They just saw Vrindavan. They didn't see any other realm, which is the ultimate destination. They saw none other. They saw no other personality but Krishna himself, and they were surprised that Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is here with us in Gokula Vrindavan, in the earthly Vrindavan, so to say. So that's the pastime. And so in this pastime, what is being talked about is how to see Krishna. They were eager to see Krishna. And Krishna granted their desire by revealing his transcendental abode to them. And what are the aspects of consciousness? What was their consciousness like when they were granted that vision? And their consciousness can be has two aspects. First of all, they considered themselves ordinary people. They didn't consider the Brijabasis, the residents of Vrindavan, did not consider themselves elevated personalities that had already transcended all the impersonal aspects of God and all other aspects of God, and who are finally made it to Vrindavan where everybody else wants to be. They did not consider themselves in that way. They considered themselves ordinary cowherd men and cowherd women and cowherd girls and boys. And then the second aspect of their consciousness was that they did not consider Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They considered, because awe and reverence stands in the way of pure love. They considered Krishna their beloved friend. So that's very instructive. What we can learn from that is that as devotees, as aspiring devotees, Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, we should never consider ourselves that better than other people. The highest consciousness is to think that everybody is a devotee but me. Everybody is doing service better than I. That's the consciousness of a devotee. And then ultimately, we should arrive at the understanding that Krishna is our dear friend. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, and He is controlling everything. From Him, all the universes emanate. As devotees, we're meant to. That's a very lofty area, and I don't want to. So I want to be very careful speaking about it. But as devotees, that we should aspire to attain the level of consciousness where we can engage in a intimate, loving affair with Krishna. So that's the ultimate aspiration. In the meantime, to get there, what do? We remain very humble. We cultivate service attitude. One time, Srila Prabhupada, our founder, Acharya, was asked a question by a person in whom Srila Prabhupada detected some challenging mood. This young man asked Srila Prabhupada, so Srila Prabhupada or Swamiji, so do you see Krishna everywhere? Do you see Krishna now? Is there a blue boy in the room that you are seeing and I'm not seeing? And Srila Prabhupada didn't. Srila Prabhupada told him that you shouldn't be answer questions like that, he said. You can only ask a question like that if you yourself are a devotee, and if you are prepared to hear the answer that I'm going to give you. Are you prepared? Srila Prabhupada challenged him. Are you prepared to hear my answer? So Srila Prabhupada didn't want to offend Krishna and offend the Bhagavatam, offend the absolute truth by revealing it to someone who wasn't appreciative and humble, who wasn't worthy of it. And the person says, yes, I'm ready for the answer that you give. And Srila Prabhupada says, yes, if you're ready to hear my answer, so my answer is yes. Yes, I do see Krishna everywhere. But for you to ask a question like that, you yourself have to be a practicing devotee with a humble attitude. So in other words, Srila Prabhupada said, in order for you to see Krishna the way I see Krishna, you have to be a devotee. So we can conclude just in one word, in one sentence, just to put it in one sentence, that to see Krishna means to be a devotee. We can boil it down to that simple statement. That's what it means to see Krishna. And we'd like to elaborate a little bit on what it is to be a devotee who sees Krishna everywhere. We're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 11, verses 29 to 32. Would you like me to share the screen or just read? Okay, I'll just read. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, so that's Krishna talking to Uddhava, his best friend. A saintly person is merciful. So a saintly person is a devotee who sees Krishna everywhere. So seeing Krishna everywhere, a person who sees Krishna everywhere is merciful and never injures others. So if we want to see Krishna everywhere, we have to become merciful and never injure others. Even if others are aggressive, he is tolerant and forgiving toward all living entities. So we should tolerate and forgive others. We shouldn't be stupid. It doesn't say he's stupid and allows abuse. It doesn't say that here. So we need to be commonsensical and intelligent. His strength and meaning in life come from the truth itself. So this is where our wisdom is coming from in life. That's where we go when we're confused. We go to Srimad Bhagavatam. We don't go to Google. Our meaning comes from the truth itself. He is free from all envy and jealousy. We're free from envy because we know everything belongs to Krishna. And my quota, my prescribed quota is there for me by Krishna's grace. So we shouldn't be worried about what others have. And his mind is equal in material happiness and distress. It's wonderful. Whether we're experiencing pain or something pleasurable, we should remain focused on our service to Krishna and the devotees. Thus, he or she dedicates his time to work for the welfare of others. See, there has to be work, and the work can't be self-centered. We can't be just self-serving. We should always be situated in this stretch zone. We want to do a little more every day, a little less, like Adipusha Prabhu puts it. Every year, a little less for yourself, a little more for others, in the name of Krishna, in the name of God, for the benefit of others, for the welfare of others. So there should be work, we should be active in Krishna consciousness, and this work has to be directed to other people's welfare, spiritual, most importantly, spiritual welfare. His intelligence is never bewildered by material desires. That's a tough one. And he has controlled his senses. That's a tough one. We control our senses by engaging in devotional service according to the desire of our guru and with the consideration of our propensities. Because if we neglect our propensities, it will be very difficult for us to remain steady and peaceful in our service. His behavior is always pleasing, never harsh, and always exemplary. Never harsh, and always exemplary. And he is free from possessiveness. Everything belongs to Krishna. He never endeavors in ordinary worldly activities, and he strictly controls his eating. That's a tough one. There has to be endeavor, but in material world we may have a job and bills to pay, our so-called worldly obligation, but that has to be done in a consciousness where we're detached from the outcome. The effort has to be there, but the outcome is always up to Krishna. And the fruit of that endeavor has to be offered to Krishna. So that's how we remain detached from possessiveness. That's how we remain detached in our endeavors in ordinary worldly activities, and strictly controls his eating by taking prasadam only. And the formula here is that we eat to live, we don't live to eat. But it's fine to enjoy prasadam. It's Krishna. He therefore always remains peaceful and steady. Peaceful and steady. A saintly person is thoughtful and accepts me as his only shelter. We take shelter of Krishna. That's a no-brainer. When something difficult happens in our life, where do we go? We go to Krishna. We take shelter in the Bhagavatam. We take shelter in the devotees' association, in our service, in our japa, in our sadhana. Such a person is very cautious in the execution of his duties and is never subject to superficial transformations because he is steady and noble, even in a distressing situation. Yeah, that's a test. Our true identity, our true level of advancement is revealed when we're challenged. When everything is fine, it's easy to be a pure devotee. But when we're challenged by another devotee or by family members, how do we behave? Do we remain ladies and gentlemen, or we just unleash our lower nature? I unleash, I confess, I unleash. A saintly person is thoughtful and accepts me. Okay, read that. Very cautious. He has conquered over the 6 material qualities, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. Yeah, we conquer all those by surrendering to Krishna. Krishna can do big things. Krishna can help us overcome old age, death, lamentation, hunger, thirst. He is free from all desire for prestige and offers honor to others. So we don't expect anything. That's Shikshashtakam prayers. We offer all respect to others and don't expect any in return. He is expert in reviving the Krishna consciousness of others. See, we fan the spark in others. We focus on Krishna in the heart of everyone, on the good qualities that other people have, rather than their lower qualities that may also be there. But we focus on the good. We reveal Krishna. We reveal. Where am I? We revive the Krishna consciousness of others. Yeah, we fan the spark, and therefore never cheats anyone. We're always truthful, always honest. We have nothing to hide, and we always keep our cameras on when we can. Rather, he is a well-wishing friend to all, being most merciful. So we're favorably disposed. Such a saintly person must be considered the most learned of men. Like Krishnadaya Prabhu is the most learned of all the devotees on this call. He perfectly understands that the ordinary religious duties prescribed by me in various Vedic scriptures possess favorable qualities that purify the performer. That's Vasudev Prabhu. He understands that those religious duties and rituals purify the performer. And he knows that neglect of such duties constitutes a discrepancy in one's life. So it's not that I'm a devotee, therefore I shouldn't care about all these rituals. I'm already past that. Having taken complete shelter at my lotus feet, however, a saintly person ultimately renounces such ordinary religious duties, and worships me alone. He is thus considered to be the best among all living entities. So this is what we'd like to share. We're now opening it up for you, ladies and gentlemen. It's your turn. Yeah, so just to sum it up, to see Krishna means to be a devotee, and to be a devotee means all the above, all that we just read. Being humble, merciful, focused on our service, surrendered to Krishna. This is how we see Krishna, and we see Venetia raising her hand. Venetia.
Can you say, thank you so much for that. That was that last thing that you read was amazing. Can you say one more time who that was by and what the reference is, or if you put it in the chat?
That's Srimad Bhagavatam 11:11, 29 through 32. 11.
Is the purport?
It's the verse. It's the verse. There is a purport, but we didn't get to it.
The qualities of the qualities of a devotee that you were just reading.
Yeah, that's Bhagavatam 11:11, 29, 32. That's the verse.
Okay. Oh, okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Venetia. I'm going to put that in the chat. Oh, yeah, it's already there. Yeah, thank you, Krishna. Okay. Ananda Manjari.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for this class. I wanted to reflect two things. One was responding to the pastime that you shared of Srila Prabhupada. I heard another quite similar pastime where, and I heard that from Swayam Bhagavan Kesha Maharaj. And so it was that somebody came who was like a big businessman to one of the like Sangha meetings with Srila Prabhupada. And then he was very angry and like out of anger, he asked Prabhupada, like, can you see Krishna? And he actually stood like right in front of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada looked at him very gravely and said, move aside, because you are blocking my view. But then he actually looked at him, the person who asked him the question, and he said, yes, I see Krishna. And can you see Krishna? And he said, no. And then he asked him, do you want to see Krishna? And then the person actually humbly said, no, actually. And then Prabhupada said, if we want to see Krishna, we will see Krishna. If there is that determination and that eagerness, we eventually will see the Lord. And the second thing I wanted to say was, when you were mentioning all the qualities of the devotees and their dealings also with each other and with the Lord, it reminded me of what I heard yesterday from Indradyumna Maharaj, whose lectures are very focused on the mood of Vrindavan and the mood of the Dham, and how do devotees interact with each other in the spiritual world, and what are their dealings and what are their qualities and what are their thoughts and feelings. And he mentioned this one sentence which like really struck me, and he just said, well, we are learning so much about this because we are aspiring Brijbasis, and since we are aspiring Brijbasis, we need to know who is Krishna associating with, what are the details of their pastimes, who are his servants, what are their names, what are their services. And that was actually very sweet to connect, because that's true. It's like, this is our aspiration. Thus, we need to know as much as we can to really be able to meditate on that and follow in the footsteps. So these are my 2 points. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ananda Manjari. Thank you very much. I was thinking, yeah, there's no room for attitude in Vrindavan. There's no room for ego in Vrindavan. I remember when I came to Vrindavan, I had just come from New York. And they were distributing Charanamrita. And everybody was trying to get closer to the person who was distributing Charanamrita with their cups. And I had a bottle. And it's very narrow. So the pujari was giving Charanamrita to everybody but me. Just everybody got it, even people who came after me. And I was being why is he discriminating against me like that? Why is he treating me like that? So, and then the devotee who was right next to me, he started pushing me to the side, and I started to push back. I was pushing back. I can't believe how foolish I was. So we really almost got into a fight with that devotee, with the brahmachari. It was so I don't know, so lame. So I was reflecting on that. That's not how devotees in Vrindavan deal with one another. And I realized that the pujari wasn't giving me Charanamrita because I was, my bottle was narrow. It was inconvenient for them to pour it in. So he was doing the cups. Me pushing that other devotee was so stupid. We had to talk with the devotee. It ended up well. We, hugged each other. But it was a very nice realization that I had, that there's no room for attitude when we're dealing with Vaishnavism. But we don't need to be pushy. Krishna knows what's going on. He will grant our desires. When we enter Vrindavan, to enter Vrindavan, actually, we need to become humble, surrendered. Krishna knows what he's doing. We don't have to be the controller. Okay, there's something in the chat. There's no room for attitude, false ego in Vrindavan. Yes, Ananda Manjari.
Yeah, I want to reflect, because I feel like in the pastime that you just shared, it's like to see the best in others also, even
Did you also get into a fight with another Vaishnavi or something?
No, I'm not a feisty person so much. So no, but I definitely had situations when I asked for forgiveness. But I wanted to reflect how, like, to see the best in others in situations like this also means, like, to ask, how is it, like, how is what the other person is doing serving Krishna? Like, what are their intentions? Because especially in like the Dham, it's like everybody wants to serve the Lord. So how is it that they are serving the Lord in this situation? And it actually really reminded me of what I saw when I was in Jagannath Puri, and it was that there was a pujari who gave maha to one of the devotees, and he just put like grains of Jagannath rice into this devotee's hand, and because it was in his hand, he dropped a few pieces of rice on the ground. And I actually saw this pujari afterwards, after that devotee left the temple complex, picking every single grain of that maha rice from the ground and then putting it on his head and carrying it back to the temple. And I was just thinking about that when you were speaking, like, it's such an offense to even drop a drop of charanamrita on the ground. So perhaps it was also his service, and trying to even protect you from the offense too, to not try to pour it into a bottle. So it's also sweet to hear that, yeah, you asked for forgiveness and maybe made a new friend. So Hare Krishna.
Yeah, maybe the devotee is watching on YouTube. He's, dear devotee, I hope I'm forgiven. I love you. Yeah, we're blinded by attitude. We're blinded by attitude. And this class that we just had, it's just so humbling and so sobering. Because I'm just, speaking of myself, I just do the opposite of everything that verse talks about, just the opposite. So it's very nice that Krishna, through Bhagavatam, through Srila Prabhupada and his disciples, is showing us what is expected of us, because we're failing. Bhima Prabhu.
Haribol Prabhu. That was a fun time of you at the altar. I think that
Bhima
symbolically
Prabhu,
speaking,
you sound like you're.
Am I breaking up?
You sound like you're intoxicated.
A machine. Yeah. How about now? Is it any better?
Yeah, better. Yeah.
Okay.
Sober.
So I am reminded in that little pastime of yours, and of course all of Krishna's pastimes, that, and also what just recently happened here with me in the barn, my wife and the horses out of control and stuff, is that Krishna will always, it seems, this is my observation, it seems that Krishna knows where our breaking point is, our tolerance, humbler than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree. And, if we actually see this as more than hyperbole, that actually we have to be as tolerant as a tree, Krishna sort of like will always bring us to that breaking point. He knows, like you said in your wonderful class, that, Krishna knows exactly what's going on within ourselves, and that as Adi always says, if we don't pass the test now, we're just going to have to double back. Krishna's going to come around again and give us the test again until we pass that test. So our breaking points, our tolerance level, our ability to be patient and bear through challenges, whether they be personal challenges, and of course, these are always challenges to our false ego, I, me, mine. And it is amazing that, you were reading from the purport about, do we fall into our lower nature when we are tested by others? Do we automatically fall into, when yelled at, do we fall into yelling back, which is something I'm used to, et cetera, et cetera. So if we are reminded in these cases that Krishna is testing us, is viewing this as a test, then we will be joyfully reminded, of course, of Krishna's presence in our life, that he's always giving us these little leelas, these little pastimes where Krishna comes forward and breaks that pot of butter and spreads it all over the place. And instead of getting mad, we become endeared. So that being pushed at the altar, you don't get the nectar, you don't get the charamrita until we don't get the nectar, we don't get the mercy until we stop pushing back. So that's what I took from this class. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Yeah. We can't push. The beauty of Krishna consciousness that the most nectar is when we take humble position. Was it Haridas Thakur? He was, Lord Chaitanya was coming to a place somewhere, and all the devotees were gathering around Mahaprabhu taking darshan. And far in the back, somewhere in the mud, somewhere in the gutter, was a Vaishnava lying flat. And there was Haridas Thakur, and they were like, Haridas Thakur, come closer, come on, why are you in the back? And he said, no, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And who is Haridas Thakur? The Namacharya, the most elevated Vaishnava. So in Krishna consciousness, the bliss is available in the back, in the front, wherever you are. As long as there is surrender and humility, yeah, Krishna is available immediately. So with this, we're going to wrap it up. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, all the devotees on this call and on YouTube everywhere, ki jai to you. Thank you very much. Rantarach Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Bruce, good to see you, Prabhu. Good to see you. Hare Krishna.